everyone, this is the sixth video of automated security testing using ZAP series. Today we are going to learn about authentication in ZAP. So we know that most of the application works with the authenticated user. There are some sections within the application which a non-authenticated user cannot access. So to scan such sections, it is important to know how we can log in or how we can authenticate our scan within ZAP. So basically there are three types of authentication within ZAP: form-based, script-based and JSON-based. Today we are going to focus on form-based authentication. Okay, and then there are some general steps which are common in each type of authentication. These steps are: so we need to define a context first, and these things needs to be included in the context, and then we need to execute a spider using the defined context. So all of these things, let us discuss these one by one. First, we need to include the target application inside the context. It will also contain the login resource using which we want to log in, right? Then exclude certain URLs like logout page, password change functionality. The reason for this is, as we have discussed earlier, Spider scans any like URL within the application which is there, like any possible URL. So logout page and password change functionality, it can also be there. So that means once a user is logged in and Spider say clicked on logout, okay, scans that particular thing, so user will be logged out. Okay, so we do not want that this thing should happen during our scan. So for this purpose we will be excluding these resources which are like logout page, password change functionality, etc. Then set the authentication mechanism, as we are going to focus on the form based authentication, so this will be the mechanism which we will be seeing in action today. Then defining the auth parameters, username and password will be the auth parameters here, and then set up the login and logout indicator so ZAP can identify whether a user is logged in or not, and add the valid user and password for login. So this username and password which we will be defining within our context will get into the auth parameters and will be used for login. Then we will be running a spider using the context that we will be defining here, the user with which we want to log in, and site on which we want to perform the test. So for this demo, I will be using this particular application, Budget. Okay, it has the form-based authentication, and we can use it for our form-based authentication demo. And the prerequisites that we need to install Docker first, and you can follow this particular URL where it is defined how we can install Docker desktop on Windows. Once this is done, Docker has been installed, you just need to run this particular command. Okay, for very first time this command will take time, execution will take time because it will download the resources from Docker Hub first, and if it has already been downloaded, then it will be there within your Docker. Okay, then you just need to containerize it, you just need to run the image once the image has been downloaded. And for this is the command I have pasted, and then this is the port on which this particular application will be running on the local host. So let me just execute it. Okay, so it has been started. Now just let me open this local host 8090, and you can just go to login.jsp as well. See, okay, this is working fine. Now we need to register two users, and we will be authenticating using those two users. The first is, say I'm going to use this test one, test at the rate 123, test at the rate 123. This is my first user, and then second I'll be using test 2 test at the rate 23 at the rate 23. Okay, so now we have two users. Now we will be creating a context in ZAP. For that, I have opened the ZAP. Let me clean the site tree. The first thing will be you need to open Firefox from here. Okay, and this will be opened as a, if you see here, start tab pre-configured to proxy through ZAP. So it will be open through ZAP. So now we are going to start creating our context. Okay, so the things which we were discussing here, all of these things we will be performing now. Just copy that particular URL here, login.jsp. Okay, now let us look uh, click on this continue to your target. You will see this pop-up. You can just click here. Now we will log in using the users that we have created. Okay, all the actions which we are performing are being recorded here within the history tab. Okay, and these are the all the sites within the scan tree. So let me log in first, test1 at the rate. Okay, so user has logged in. Now let us do one thing here. We will remove all of these unwanted URLs, and these are the main things that we want. Okay, so first of all we need to create a context and include this URL there. So you can just say include in context, new context, and just name it as form based. Oh, that's it. Include in context, that's all right. Just click on save, and we need one more. We need, say we use logout as well, and then as discussed we can have this particular URL as a excluded URL from the context. Okay, so this thing is done. The next thing is about login. So we need to see where in the history tab we have logged in. See, this is the post request which is going there. So within our post we can see this is the request and this is the username and password, right? So this is used, this particular request is used to log in. Just click on this, and here you can just have flag as context. Yeah, so flag as context form based authentication. Here you will be defining it as form based authentication login request. Just click on this. Okay, so now you are within your form based authentication context. This is the authentication tab, and this is the authentication mechanism which has been selected here, form based authentication. This is the resource, the login.jsp, where the request post request has been made. Okay, and this is the post data. Let us parameterize it. For this you just need to click on password here. This is your username, this is your password, and just click on OK. So once you will do that and open this again, here you will be able to see username and password have been parameterized. Just click on OK. So if you go to the notes again, so we have already done, we have included the target application, excluded the logout page, set the authentication mechanism, define the auth parameters. Now we need to set up the login and logout indicators, right? And for this, if you see within our post request, go to the response, and If a user is logged in, you will see this user ahref and the email id with which the user has logged in, right? And the second thing is, here if you scroll down a bit, you will see this link to logout page as well. So if there is we can take this as our logged in user indicator. So this, if this is present in the response, that means the user is logged in. So just right click on this and flag as context form based auth, and this is our logged in indicator. And if you see here, this will come regex pattern used to identify logged in a message. Okay, this will come here in form of regex. Just click on OK. Similarly, we need to check for log out indicator as well. That means user is not yet logged in. So you can just go to any of the page, say login.jsp, where we landed for very first time using a get call. If you see here, you will see this kind of link, href login.jsp. Okay, that means user is not yet logged in. For this, just click again flag as context, and here we can have logged out indicator. Okay, and this is here again. Just click on OK. So now the next thing is, we need to define our users. Again, open this context, go to users, and here add the first user, test1. Click on add, again add the second user, test2. That's it. So we have added both the users. Just click on OK. So we are done with all of these things, right? So this context we can just export it. For exporting it, just click on this particular, this is import, this is export, right? Home based authentication we want to export, and you can just name it like this, remove it and save. That's it. So now we have imported it, and this particular context we will be using in our automated scan. So coming to IntelliJ now, and this is our ZAP util class, right? Last time we have already performed a spider, but this time we will be performing the spider as a user. So just copy paste this particular thing here and perform spidering as user. Let us name it like this. And we need to pass site to test, string context name, and the user with which we want to perform the scan. Then we also need to check what is this particular method uh, for scanning the spider as a user. So for this, we will be just using client API dot spider dot scan as user, right? And we can see what all parameters it is going to take. It is going to take a context ID, user ID, URL on which we want to perform, URL max children request, and subtree. So this thing we can pass as null, this as true, this as null. Okay, and all these three parameters we will be seeing how we can pass. So for context ID, we have the context name first, right? So first is context ID. So for this, we can have, let us use our context ID here, string context ID. We have defined a method earlier or get context after importing, but this will give us a integer, right? So we need to convert it to a string. Just do this and it will be converted to a string. This is context ID. Then the other thing was user ID. Now we know we have a username, but we need user ID. And what is this user ID? This user ID is nothing. If you see, open this particular thing here, this is the user ID we have. Okay, but how to use it, how to get it dynamically? For this, let us use, let me show you in the Postman first. I have already used that particular endpoint which is used to get the users which are there within a context. We just need to pass the context ID. Context ID in our case it is 10. Yeah, so just pass the context ID here and it will give you all the users which are there. Like we know we have two users, test1 and test2, and we need to fetch the ID of the user with which we want to log in. For this, let me show you in, and yeah, so let us create a method here, get user ID from context, and we want to pass the context name and user. Right, this user, it is nothing but the name which is being displayed here, the name that you have given to your user. Not the email ID, not this username. This is the username that we are passing. Okay, so let me create a method here. User ID, yeah, and we will not perform the active scan this time. The passive scan is enough for this demo, and we need to get the user. And for getting the user, again, we'll be using API response first, then client API dot users dot users list. Okay, so this will give us all the users which are there. Like we have your user list here only, but it will take context ID, and context ID, if you see, it is using context ID. So instead of passing the context name here, the context ID which we will be using in this particular method as well, we can pass that only here. Context ID, then just name it like this, context ID, okay, and throw throw the, okay, so we are done with this. Now we just need to extract the response. So for this, first of all, I need to show you in debug mode. Only then it will be easier for you to understand how this thing is done. But for that, let me just show you. I have already done this thing at my end, and I'll show you in the debug mode how it is done. But let me directly use it as of now. Okay, so I'm just removing it from here, and while debugging you will be able to see how it is done. For saving the time, I have directly copied it, and we just need to import the map. Okay, Yeah, so this thing is done, and it will give us a user ID which we will be using here, and just do it like this. The first thing is we need to pass context ID, then user ID, then site to test, then null. The other parameter was recurse. Yes, we want to recurse, and then null. That's it. We have scanned it as a user. So context ID, user ID, URL. Yeah, context ID, user ID, site to test. That is all right. Then within our ZAP test class, we need to define a test. So just control C. Let me comment it out. Test spider as user or as form-based user. Now we are going to call the method that we have created, URL to test, context name, and user. So this user I have defined here, but of course ideally we will be having a property file containing all of this information, and then there will be a property reader file which will be reading this, and then we will be using the instance of that property reader to fetch these values. But for this demo purpose I'm using it straight away, and then I need to remove this thing. Let me check my perform. Okay, I need to remove this as well because I just used it. I just copied it from the our spider method that we had earlier, and then this is context ID, this is user ID, and here we are getting the spider scan ID just to wait till our spidering is completed. Once this is done, as once the spider is executed, a passive scan is also triggered automatically. So we are waiting till our passive scan gets completed. So now let me execute it for very first time, and then I'll show you in the debug mode as well that what I have done here. Before running it, I think, yeah, I have missed this thing here. I need to store it in apiresponse. Yeah, now it is all good. Let me execute. Create a new Chrome instance. Yeah, this is actually not required because for passive scan we created it earlier, but yeah, we can remove it later as well. But coming to the main thing, yeah, spider is in progress, and if you open the tab, here we have the context imported, and things are being accessed here as well. And if you'll just go to the spider, yeah, we are in spider, and these are all the messages which got scanned. And here if you see, say home JSP, I want to see this thing, and if you come here within this thing, yeah, see here we have test2@gmail.com. So we have logged in using the test2 account, test2 username. That's why we have test2. And if you will go down here, you will see our logged in indicator as well. So this is it, and then if we see, this is the report that has been created here. Okay, so that means we are able to perform a spider as an authenticated user. Now let me show you one more thing. Test, instead of test2, I'll use test1 here, and then we should see the logged in user should be test1. So I'll remove the alerts. History, we have nothing here. Now I'll again run it. So the context has been imported, and these are all the URLs which are being spidered, and then a passive scan will be performed on basis of this as well. So if we see on our this particular page here, see this is test one now, okay, and this is logout. Similarly, let me scroll down to any other, say basket.jsp. Here if we'll see again, this should also have, this is test1@gmail.com, right? And logout.jsp. So you have accessed all of these resources as an authenticated user. Then coming to the thing which I wanted to discuss now, passive scan is currently in progress. If you see, this is still 4. I think it is completed, and we have the report here as well, right? This is all well. Alerts are here. Alerts are in our report as well. So this is all good. Now I'll do one thing. I'll remove it again and just to show you in debug mode how things are being done. Okay, now ZAP is all cleaned up and in IntelliJ. So now we have to debug the code. But before that, let me comment this thing out. We do not need this Chrome instance anymore. Because this we set up for our very first tutorial where we wanted to see how passive scan is done using Selenium WebDriver, where we were setting the Chrome driver as the proxy. And here the passive scan is being triggered by Spider itself, so I have removed that thing. And if you'll go here, this is a breakpoint, and I'm going to debug the code now. Here we want to see that how this user ID is being extracted. So if we see the code first, like we have the list of API responses first, then we are iterating through each API response one by one. Then from each API response, first we are trying to fetch the API response set, and then we are getting the map out of it. So this map is nothing. If you see, like in the Postman, we were able to see like there were user IDs, then username. So let me show you in the code itself, and I'll do a step into, step over, step over. So if you see this thing here, first of all, this is our API response, but within our API response, there is a array list, right? So we have fetched that array list here. Then if we open this list has two elements, and each of this element is a API response set. That's why I have extracted it in API response set, and then I'm getting a value map out of it. So if you'll see here, like we have a value map here, which is nothing but a unmodifiable map having a size of 5. So if you remember in our Postman request, in our Postman response for getting the user list, we were able to see that all of these values were present, right? Now what we need to do, we just need to check this particular ID for our user with which we want to log in. Like if it is a test1, then this will be the ID. If it is test2, then this will be ID, right? So to achieving this thing, like what I have done here, like first I have extracted a list of API response, then API response set. Once we have the API response set, we can use get value map, which will give us a map. And then once we have the map, we are comparing whether the username with which we want to log in is present in that map. If that username is present there, then we can extract the ID out of that map, and that will be our user ID. Okay, so now we know how the user ID is being extracted. Then coming to the notes, like we have discussed form-based authentication, we know how to perform spider and passive scan as authenticated user in case of form-based authentication, and these two things we will be covering in our future videos. Then there is one more thing that we need to make sure, though it is by default taken care of, but still just in case your form-based authentication is not working, just double sure that the session management is cookie-based session management. So by default it is always this cookie-based session management only. If you see in this particular context we haven't made any changes, so by default it was cookie-based session management. So just double sure in case of form-based authentication you select this as your session management. Okay, so I'll include this thing in the notes section as well, and I'll share the notes and the source code of this particular demo in a link in description section. And guys, in case you are liking the content I'm making, please do like and subscribe. See you in the next video. Thank you.